Hello YouTube. So I am making a new video today, but this is not a review. I'm actually brewing today. The beer I'm brewing today is a Belgian dubbel, a dark Belgian double gravity. It's really not going to have a lot of alcohol in it, though. I'm only going for 5 or 6%, so I guess in that sense it's not really dubbel. So I'm going to go ahead and show the ingredients here in just a moment. Okay, so this is hard to read because of the pen that was used, but it's Belgian dubbel, 6 pounds of liquid malt extract, 8 ounces of Cara Munich, so that'll give it some intense caramel, some toffee, a little bit of maltiness in there, some Special B, which is, okay, can you see that at all? I'm not sure if you can. Yeah, 8 ounces of Special B, which is primarily known for dark fruit varieties. So as I've mentioned in other videos, plum, raisin, maybe some cherry, could be some dark malts as well. I mostly get dark fruit out of it, so it's a very nice malt, common in Belgian beers. And then can you see that? Okay, well that's all for the malt. And then I'm going to use 2 ounces of Hallertauer at an hour for bitterness, not a ton of it, and I'm not using any aroma hops. And then white yeast, 1762. This is what the malt looks like once it's cracked. Well, the malt I'm using, it can be all light, it can be really dark, it can be whatever the color of malt is. So, see if I can get a light. Yeah, it's just barley malt that's been modified and cracked open. There's very little here. This is only a pound. Some of my recipes for malt extract, I just had one that was 5 pounds. So it's, I think I'll reach down and get a little bit of it out. That's what she looks like. Here are the hops. This isn't all of them. I'm not going to put all these in there. But this is an 8 ounce package of Hallertauer, Mittelfra, I'm not sure how you say that. These ones are actual German, because I don't believe these are even made in America, although they might be, but not to my knowledge. A little spicy florals, what they're generally known for. Sometimes a little fruity in your perception. Now these are very low alpha acid, 2.6, which is part of the reason I'm going to double them up. The liquid yeast, this is not repitched because I didn't have any available. 1762 Belgian Abbey 2, so this is a true Belgian strain. Here's the liquid malt extract. It's just a giant bucket that I bought at the homebrew supply store. No, it's not wildflower honey. When they sell large quantities of it, they just use whatever bucket they had available, and that's what they had. So this is Pilsner malt extract. I'm not sure how many pounds are in here. I wanted to briefly mention brewing water. It's important to have good clean water when you're brewing because your beer is about 95% water. So this debate's gone on for a long time of what you use. Do you need bottled water? Do you need, filtered, demineralized, water filter, tap water? What do you use? I've always used tap water until I had my 20-gallon brewery. The tap water where I've always lived has been clean and fine. There's never been a problem with it. It's never been yellow or had any off flavors I could tell. It's always been clean. With my all grain system, I have a canister water filter, an under-sink canister. I don't know what the capacity is, but the filter can go up to 10,000 gallons. If the water where you live tastes bad, if it's nasty, stinks, discolored, then yeah, I would invest in a water filter. I wouldn't use bottled water only because it's expensive. A water filter, whether it's tap, pitcher, what have you, is way cheaper than that. I did forget to mention that while I didn't show it, I did clean and sanitize my kettles. Some people just clean them quickly before brewing because they figure I'm going to be boiling with them anyway. I don't find that to be best practice. When I was volunteering at the brewery years ago, they cleaned and sanitized everything. I do clean and sanitize the entire time I'm brewing. I may not be showing that just because I use both hands and I can't record that. With malt extract, most brewers boil between 1.5 and 2.5 gallons of water to dissolve the malt extract, which you'll see later. That's what I have in my kettle right now. Okay, this is my kettle with the sparge water in it. I have half a gallon of water in here, and I'll explain the formula in a minute. And this is going to be used to rinse the malt, to rinse the grain. As far as the formula, how much water do you need? Generally, it's half a gallon per pound. So to make it even easier, the formula I use is I just take whatever the amount of grain is, I divide all the grain, in this case it's malt extract, so I wouldn't add that, take the full amount of actual grain, divide it in half. So if I have 12 pounds of grain, it's 6 gallons of water. If I have 16 pounds of grain, it's 8 pounds of grain, or 8 gallons of water. You get the idea. This is the water I'm going to be using for my partial mash. This is about a little over 2 gallons. You can use between 1.5 and 2.5 gallons of water to steep the specialty malt in to get the flavors to release, to get the sugars out of it and any potential, flavors and sugars, I should say. The ideal temperature range for this water is 150 to 160 Fahrenheit. This water is about 155, 158, right around there. So that's all it is, just plain water. There's nothing added to it. This is going to be the sparge water. There's not very much here. In fact, I think it's only about half gallon. I'm going to heat this to about 168 to 170 Fahrenheit. And this is going to be used to rinse the malt after I'm done steeping it, which the steeping lasts 20 to 30 minutes. In order to calculate how much you need, you take the amount of grain, you use half a gallon of water per 1 pound of grain. An easier way to figure it out is however much grain you have, you divide that in half, and that's how much water you need. Okay, so I poured that specialty malt I had into a grain bag, as you see here. I need both hands so I couldn't film it. So there's not very much in here. In fact, it's largely at the bottom, as you can tell. And I'm going to go ahead and place in the water. Okay, the water, like I said, it's about 157 degrees, I suppose. It was under 160. And I'm going to let it stay in here for between, yes, you can already tell the water color's changing. Nice. So it's going to remain in here a minimum 20 minutes. Sometimes they go up to a half hour. And I'm not going to stay there the whole time and act like a tea bag, but I let it just stay there. And then periodically, while it's resting, while it's steeping, I'll lift it up. Now, the reason you want the grain bag and not just throw the malt in there is because you don't want the malt in your beer. I mean, it's just going to leave, there's grain husks and other things in there that the flavors you don't want in your beer. You only want the flavors, not the actual grain itself. Okay, so I am done with the steeping of the specialty malt. It's been, almost a half hour. I've been lifting it up occasionally, I just didn't film that. And now I'm going to take the sparge water. I'm just using a measuring cup. You can use anything you want. The stuff, the white stuff you see in there, that's just star sand. It's fine for brewing. You can leave it in there, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to slowly rinse the grain. Now I'm just going to rinse it for a couple of minutes and make sure I extract all the sugars. Okay, so sparging is over with. I've already rinsed the grain out for probably, I don't know, a good solid minute. Just rinse it over and over. I've drained the remainder of it in the kettle here. As you can tell, there's very little left. With the regular kettle, I cranked up the heat and I'm going to bring it to a boil and then add the malt extract. Another point I forgot to mention as far as the malt extract part goes, I'm probably not going to film that because I need both hands and I don't have a tripod for my camera. Essentially, the malt extract in here, I'm going to just dish it out into my measuring tray. I already know the math on it, and I'm going to put. The way I'm going to do it, since I can't film it, is I'm going to take the pot off the stove, just put it over here so it's on the burner. And then it'll still be boiling, but I'm going to move it off. I'm going to dump in the malt extract and stir it in so it doesn't burn the bottom. And then when that's done, I'll just put it back on the stove, bring it back up to a boil again. As you can see, I've added 6 pounds of malt extract, so the water level's higher and it's also a different color now, but it's going to turn darker as it caramelizes and boils a little bit. So I turned up the heat all the way, and it's going to start boiling pretty soon. I'll add the hops, and I'll show that as well. So here are the 2 ounces of the Hallertauer hops I'm going to be adding. I already measured that on my scale. So I'm going to be adding these into a grain bag since they're pellets and they're going to fall apart in the boil. So here are the Hallertauer hops in the grain bag, as you can see. Well, maybe you can't see them that well, but they're there at the bottom. Since the alpha acids are pretty low, it's not going to be bitter at all, and the point of the bittering hops, it helps offset the sweetness of the beer. Okay, as you see, the boil is now underway. We're at the top of the 60 minutes. I'm going to start my timer, drop the hops in there, the 60-minute hops. This is the only addition I have for this recipe, and just drape the bag over the side. I could throw the whole thing in there, but I just don't do that. The boil will break open the lupulin glands and get those oils to isomerize and start, adding the bitterness to the beer. This is called hot break. It does a number of things. Isomerize the hops, sanitizes the wort, condenses the sugars, removes any DMS, which isn't the case in this because it's only liquid malt extract. It does a number of things. This is the fermenter, as you can see. I've already cleaned and sanitized it in the lid. I did that earlier, I just didn't make a video of it, but there's really, well, let's see here, just my 6.5 gallon bucket. Okay, what I did here is I added 2 gallons of plain water to the fermenter. The bubble you see in there is just residual star sand. There's nothing wrong with that. So the purpose of this is so when I take the boiling wort, when it's done boiling at the end of 60 minutes, I'm going to pour it directly in the fermenter. But the purpose of the water in here, in this case I said 2 gallons, is so when I pour the boiling hot wort in, the fermenter doesn't warp or melt. This absorbs the thermal shock. The reason I don't add more than about 2 gallons is because I'm going to be pouring in about 2 gallons of wort, which is in fermented beer, and then that won't quite bring up the 5 gallon mark. It'll be probably somewhere down here, who knows, not quite up to 5 gallons. So that'll give me room to put more cold water on top, perhaps another gallon, and cool it down even more. Here's the fermenter all topped up. I added the 2 gallons of water like you saw in the beginning, and then I poured the boiling wort right on top of it. It still needed about another gallon of water, so I added another gallon to it, topped it up to right about 5 gallons. It's too hot to pitch the yeast, and I don't use a wort chiller here just because I'm not in that big of a hurry. I will put a lid on it and air lock and let it cool overnight. I've done that for a long time. There's no problem with that, and I'll pitch yeast in the morning. And at this point, just need to make a yeast starter, and then pitch in the morning, and it's going to start, the yeast is going to start, creating alcohol. So do the cleanup next. Yep, that's my Belgian dubbel, and I know you can't, it's hard to see with all the bubbles in there, but it's a nice dark brown. I love it. That's the end of this brew day with malt extract. Hey everybody, well, thanks for watching my attempt at making a malt extract video with just by myself with my phone here. Okay, well, that's all for this this video. So gonna finish up my cleaning and go have some beers. So cheers to everybody.